Is she excited for Matt? Worried for Matt?
Yeah, well, no, she is full of confidence for Matt. She said that she had been so impressed by how he had been performing on the show so far. She said it would be hard to be unimpressed because he's been doing so well in all of the trials. She said he's made of tough stuff, so she expected nothing less from him.
Hello, I'm Katie Hind and welcome back to Jungle Confidential. Today, I'm joined by the MailOnline's chief showbiz reporter, Sarah Packer, who's out in Australia covering the programme for us. Morning, Sarah. How are you? Thank you for joining.
Morning. I'm well. How are you?
I'm good.
Good evening.
Good evening. It's good morning. So it's morning here. And what time is it there, Sarah?
It's 7:15 in the evening on Friday, so I'm a bit ahead of you.
Yeah, and it's already dark there. Gosh, you'd think Australia would be nice and bright, wouldn't you, until the evening? But
I
obviously
know.
not.
Well, it is in the morning and throughout the day, but it does get dark quite quickly in the evenings.
And well, at least you've got a nice tan anyway. Good for you.
Oh, thank you.
Despite it being a very busy week for you, I know you've spent most of it waiting at airports for family members of the campmates to arrive. Who have you seen?
I did. Well, probably the most exciting person who I saw was Matt Hancock's girlfriend, Gina. We waited at the airport for her and she was actually the first one to arrive, so she didn't leave us in suspense. And yeah, she spoke to us. She was really, really friendly and warm, and we were surprised by that, really, you know, with all the media attention on her. We thought maybe she would do a quick exit, but luckily enough, she stopped and gave us a chat.
And so how did she seem? I mean, did she seem happy? Did she seem nervous? She must have been tired. As you know, it's a very long flight from London to Brisbane.
Yes, despite it being a 24-hour journey, she looked fresh. She looked glamorous. She looked very relaxed and happy to be there. And yeah, I mean, she looked better than I did coming off that flight, I have to say.
I don't believe that, Sarah. And so what did she say to you? What did she say? Is she excited for Matt? Worried for Matt?
Yeah, well, no, she is full of confidence for Matt. She said that she had been so impressed by how he had been performing on the show so far. She said it would be hard to be unimpressed because he's been doing so well in all of the trials. She said he's made of tough stuff, so she expected nothing less from him.
Well, we have seen him get stuck in, haven't we? How long do you think she's going to have to wait to see him again? Obviously, he's mentioned her quite a lot, hasn't he, in the jungle as being the best thing about being evicted from the camp.
Yes.
Personally, you know what I think about Hancock. Hancock, I just love him. I think he's going to be in the final, but what do you think?
Well, you could be right, you know. I mean, I read a lot of the comments from our readers and they all seem to be enjoying Matt on the show. They seem to be rooting for him. So I wouldn't be surprised if he made final 5, maybe not final 3, but I think we're going to see more of him in the jungle so far.
Of course, Sarah, you got the scoop when Gina was leaving Heathrow, didn't you? We saw her leave wearing a bit more than when she arrived.
Yes, obviously it's winter back home, so we saw her wearing a lovely bright green emerald coat, but by the time she had arrived in Australia, she had stripped down and she was wearing, just a sleeveless black top, black trousers. She looked really comfortable and, probably getting used to the hot weather here now.
Well, she's a lucky lady. Who else have you seen? I believe you saw Chris Moyles' fiancée too.
Yeah, we saw Chris Moore's fiance, who is also the manager of Boy George. So she's got 2 connections here and out in Australia, which not many people may know about.
No, that's really interesting, isn't it? You wonder, don't you, who's she going to be rooting for? I mean, they must have known each other quite well before they went in as well, mustn't they? If she manages one and dates the other, that we haven't been told about that, have we?
No, and it's I think Chris and George have probably done the most not to speak about it in camp. Maybe it's a bit embarrassing for Chris. Like, I remember him telling a story when he had to go to Boy George's house and collect his laundry for him or some sort of story like this. So perhaps he would rather not speak about it on the show.
It does seem a little bit wrong that there's this quite strong connection between Chris Moyles and Boy George, and the viewers not been told, got absolutely no idea. Doesn't seem right, does it?
I know, you would expect them both to be a bit more transparent, Boy George has opened up in recent episodes about his previous arrest, and Matt Hancock has spoken about, you know, the troubles that he faced during the pandemic and the backlash from the public. So you'd think you would get the most out of everyone at this point.
Sean Walsh's girlfriend, you saw her. She arrived fairly heavily pregnant, didn't she? Which she was surprised to see.
Yes, well, Sean and Grace announced they were expecting in October, so I can assume she is 4-5 months pregnant. So she did really well to make the 24-hour journey, but she was in great spirits. She's so excited for Sean. Like, she said that she hopes that him being on the show will mean that people change their perception towards him and get to know the real him better. So she's rooting for him all the way.
Owen's mum. I love her. I love Owen.
Yes.
She must be a very proud mum. How is she?
She's so proud. She's missing him so much. I think she wants him to win and wants him to be evicted so she can give him a hug in equal measures. But she was hilarious. She said that her friends had been watching him strip off in the shower scene, and even they were like, oi, oi. And she was like, yeah, that's not appropriate, but it is what it is.
That's very funny. So her friends are like, gosh, that's funny. So you met some of these contestants before they went in.
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago now. You sat with them all, didn't you, for quite some time. Who did you like the best?
Ooh, that's hard. Well, sadly, my favourite contestant was Olivia Atwood, but we all know what happened there. So if I had to pick a second favourite, I would have to say during the interviews, it was Chris Moyles. Like, he was so friendly. Obviously, he knows how to talk, being a former radio host, or no, current radio host even. And yeah, he just was so full of conversation, and we barely had to ask him any questions because, you know, he was so forthcoming. Although he hasn't really shown that side to him so much in the jungle. So yeah, it's funny how people feel comfortable in different situations. He seems to be really terrified in there.
And Mike Tindall, I mean, I'm so surprised we haven't seen more of Mike Tindall. I know we've seen him in his tiny little swimming trunks, and of course, you know, he's done a couple of 1990s raps and done a couple of press ups. But I mean, what was he like? Because I think people had high expectations of him.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he was slightly reserved during the interviews. I'm not sure that's a space he feels completely comfortable. And obviously, we want to ask him lots of questions about his royal family. And I know that he'll have his reservations there. But I have enjoyed some of the anecdotes, you know, that we've heard from him in the jungle. And yeah, seeing him in his tiny pants, that's always a plus. But yeah, I think that maybe he's quietly annoyed by some of the campmates. Like, we've seen him throw a few swear words out the last couple of days towards Charlene and Boy George and the chanting. So I think he's just trying to keep some composure in there.
I mean, I don't blame them to throw swear words about Boy George's chanting. I think it would drive me round the bend.
I know, it does seem to be every day, very, very frequent.
And you do have to say, look, I know he's into these things and it's part of his lifestyle, I guess, but it does seem very, very sort of self-obsessed to put others through that when he knows everyone else is kind of hungry and tired, and then you've got to listen to that rubbish. I mean, it's not really fair, is it?
Yeah, I mean, he predicted this himself during the interview that we did with him before the jungle. He said, I know it's going to get on everyone's nerves. So he's fully aware of that, and he is still going ahead with it. But you're completely right. It's his lifestyle. It's part of, you know, his transformation and how he got his life back on track. So I think we're going to see more of his chanting if he stays in.
My nephew, actually, he's 8. He does impressions of him. He finds it very funny. Anyway, Jill Scott. Now, what was she like? What was she like when you met her? Because she seems so lovely, doesn't she? And look, we've actually seen a really funny side to her as well. She comes out with some real cracking one-liners, doesn't she? But what was she like?
She does. No, she was great to interview. She was so friendly. She does come across really warm and kind. And I think she has the best intentions. You know, she's completely for her campmates, and that came across when we spoke to her as well. Like, I think she's genuinely there for the experience. She's got no intentions of winning, which she may well do. And yeah, she was a great person to talk to, just very free.
You're one of the privileged few to actually have been inside the camp. which is just fascinating. You wrote a fantastic piece on Mail Online about it. What really fascinates me is they keep going running, don't they? Matt Hancock, Jill Scott, they're going running. Where are they going? Because as far as I can see, it's just a really small kind of, 10 metre by 10 metre plot.
Yes. No, it's so large. I mean, just to get to the camp, you have to cross over the high bridges that you see Ant and Dec, going over to get to the camp to announce who's been nominated for the next trial. So it's quite a mission to get in there. And then once you are in there, it is quite a space. Like, I think the initial camp, because there's so many of them as well, it seems quite cramped and they all sleep so close together. But you have to take quite a walk to then get to the shower, and then quite a walk to get to this the stream where they wash in. And we saw Matt Hancock and Sean watching him wash in like one of the first scenes. So it's all quite spaced apart, and I think, yeah, in the end, you probably feel like you want to get moving. So I don't blame them for wanting to run, especially like a sports person like Jill Scott.
So they do have the space on the outside of where we see them. So how far would the shower be from perhaps like the RV, for example? Or their hammocks?
It's not far. Less than a 10-minute walk.
Well, that's quite a way though, isn't it? It's quite a long walk to go and have a shower, isn't it? Especially when it's cold.
Yes, it is. And also to the dunny, it's not right there. Like, you can't just pop to the loo in the middle of the night. You do have to get out of bed and like walk a significant way, which I wouldn't want to do in the dead of night in the jungle.
Tonight is quite a big day. We've got the first eviction of the series.
Yes.
Am I right in thinking it's been brought forward? Is it not normally this soon?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think it's probably in the usual place that it would be during an Australian series. I think that the timings were different in Wales because the series was shorter and it was slightly later in the month. But I think for Australia, we're bang on target. Okay.
So who do you think's going to go?
Well, it's hard because I really enjoyed watching Charlene White at the beginning of the series. And I think she's started to struggle. And I think as time's gone on, perhaps she will be the first to go. Obviously, we've seen a lot of tension in camp because she's the deputy, but she refuses to sleep in the RV, which lots of people see as being such a privileged position, but she's not using it. And yeah, as I say, that's causing real tensions. And I think that the viewers, they feel that for the people in there.
Why do you think she's not sleeping in the RV? I mean, you look inside it, don't you? You think, God, I'd totally sleep in here. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's a bit hot. I don't know. But I mean, it's a proper bed. I mean, otherwise it's a really uncomfortable camp bed or a hammock. I mean, surely you would just do it.
I know. Well, we saw her go in there and there were 2 big spiders, and she kind of let that be an excuse why she didn't want to sleep in there the first night. And all right, I get that. But as time's gone on, I definitely think that there's a bigger reason for the fact she's not sleeping in there. And obviously the person she would be sleeping in there with is Matt Hancock, and I don't know if deep down she just doesn't feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget she is a newsreader. She has a duty to be not be politically biased. And I wonder if she obviously didn't know Matt Hancock was going to be in there. None of us did when she signed up. And I wonder if she knows professionally she's got to keep her distance from him because she's got commitments to ITV, who she works for, ITV News, of course. But I don't think, as you said, the viewers don't understand this, do they? And they are getting. I think they're just like, what is the matter with you? You sort of think she should come out and say that.
Yes, I mean, I would love for her to come out and say that, and that will be our job whenever she does leave the jungle to really ask those reasons why. But yeah, I think she's keeping her cards close to her chest there. She's not saying too much, at least not that we have seen being aired on the show. And I think, the cast, especially Mike, he was getting really frustrated the last couple of days, like not understanding why she won't just sleep in there and make everything easier for everyone else.
So why is no one else sleeping in there? Are they not allowed?
Yeah, so because Matt was voted the leader of the camp and then he elected Charlene as his deputy, they are the ones chosen to sleep in the RV if they so wish. Like, they don't have to, but no one else can. And I'm not sure what the repercussions would be if someone else were to sleep in there, but I'm not sure they'd want to take that risk.
Golly. Okay, so who else do you think could be on the cards to go tonight other than Charlene? I mean, I totally agree with you on Charlene. I thought she started off great and she was lovely, wasn't she?
Yes.
And I actually think, particularly over the last 4 or 5 days, she's become quite irritating, hasn't she? So who else do we think is up there?
I think, well, perhaps Boy George as well. I mean, they've both been nominated for a trial tonight, and that's always a good indication of how the public are feeling. And George, he's been slightly controversial at times as well. Some people have said that he's quite toxic in the camp. And I mean, I love it. It's great viewing. It's really entertaining. But, perhaps he isn't as jolly as, say, Jill Scott or Owen, who are, really lovable characters.
Yeah. I mean, I think Jill and Owen and Matt Hancock will go all the way. Who do you think's going to win? Who do you see as this year's winner, King or Queen of the Jungle?
Well, definitely Jill. I think everything we've discussed here, it is most definitely Jill who I see winning. I think that if you look at past winners, it's always someone that was a really, happy and positive influence on the camp. And I think she's definitely that. She's been busting out her dance moves. She's been busting out the one-liners. And I just think that, she's a really warm and, lively, happily influence on camp. And I think people warm to that on the outside too.
The other woman who I think has been lovely and really, really part of the gang, if you like, is Scarlett Douglas. I mean, even I, as a showbiz journalist, who I've been doing it a long time, I didn't really know who she was, and I knew very little about her. And I just think she's adorable.
No, I completely agree. And I have to say, she's the one that my mum, when she's watching the show, I love Scarlett, Scarlett's so lovely. So she definitely will have the mum vote there. And I agree, getting to know her. I'm not a viewer or someone that watches A Place in the Sun just because that's on during the daytimes when we're at work. But I think she has a real fan base with people that do love that show. And she's come across great. Again, just someone that gets stuck in, someone that likes to have some fun.
I think this year's lineup has been excellent, hasn't it? I mean, Babatunde makes me laugh. Sean Walsh makes me laugh. I mean, there's so many of them that make me laugh, and that's kind of what we want, isn't it? We love it, especially at the moment. With the country the way it is, we love to have a bit of light relief. And I just think this show, I mean, as we've seen from the ratings, it's just so insanely popular. So, on to tonight. So we're going to see Boy George, as mentioned, Boy George and Charlene take on a water challenge, right?
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be hard and also disgusting, as with all Bush Tucker trials. I think the water challenges are particularly difficult because not only do you have to put yourself out there in terms of lots of gunk and bugs being thrown at you, but it's also physically challenging, holding your breath underwater and such. So, it'll be interesting to see how they both get on. Yeah,
I mean, is there anything else you can tell us about tonight's show, or are you sworn to see? I know Sarah gets to find out before the rest of us what's going to be on our television screens tonight. Does it look like it's going to be a good episode? Obviously, it's going to be exciting because we're going to see the first person leave, but is it a good one tonight?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a good episode tonight. I think that off the back of, certain campmates such as Matt Hancock letting, to go to the beach, have this treat day, I think tensions will continue to rise there because, a lot of campmates were unhappy that they didn't get to go. Owen even said he felt like Matt was just having a holiday. So I think that sums it up. And also, the first eviction and also the trial between Charlene and Boy George, it will be Charlene's first challenge. So it will be interesting to see how she gets on. Maybe she won't be as strong as she showed herself to be at the beginning of the series.
So just for clarity, Charlene's going to do the trial, but are the voting lines still open at that point? So if Charlene was to have a great trial, people, she would, that would give her a better chance of staying in. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a good question that I'm not 100% the answer on, but I would assume so. I think that the voting line would close midway through the show.
Yeah, and this is, of course, at the beginning.
To be at the top of the show. Yes.
Now, finally, I want to ask you about Ant and Dec. I mean, they have been so funny. I mean, they're funny every year, aren't they? They are great. But
they're the best part of the show for me. I love them.
They've surpassed themselves, haven't they? Now, I mean, they just take the mick out of each other. They take the mick out of the campmates. I mean, they're just, without them, I don't, as you say, I don't think the show would be quite what it is. I mean, do you know where they're staying? Do you know what they're up to?
Well, they're definitely enjoying the weather and enjoying the beaches. We've seen them on the beaches a lot, with their families. And so they seem to spend a lot of time with each other still. It's not like we see them on TV and that's how they are as their duo. I think they genuinely enjoy spending time with each other outside of the show and filming as well. Well, today I know that they've been celebrating Ant's birthday. I think they had like a big late lunch outside enjoying the weather. It was a beautiful day today, so he got lucky there in terms of celebrating and being able to enjoy the outdoors. And I've seen like all of the crew came together. They did him a cake, a little spread, and he said he got quite emotional because they all sang "But He's a Jolly Good Fellow." They sang happy birthday to him. So I think you can see that it really means a lot to them being back in Australia. That's been said quite a few times as well.
So Sarah, is the show covered in the Australian media?
No.
Okay.
Not that I know of. No. I do look at the papers here just to see because it's funny. But when I talk to locals, about why I'm here, they're like, oh, I feel like no one knows. They have their Aussie series, but the celebrities here, they've got no idea who they are. Like at the airport, when obviously there's a lot of commotion, like ITV camera crews were there yesterday as well. They're like, who is it? And then I explain, and they're like, oh, I just didn't know if it means anything to the people here.
Tonight we see the first eviction. Where do they go? Because of course they stay till the end of the series, don't they? They stay in Australia. Where are they staying? They used to stay in that lovely Versace hotel. That seems to be a thing of the past now.
Yes, I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe ITV blew all of their budget on the amazing signings this year. But just next door to the famous Versace hotel is a hotel called the Marriott, and that's where friends and family are currently staying, and that's where contestants will head as soon as they have been voted out of the jungle. They will head back there, and hopefully there'll be a crowd of people waiting to cheer them on, waiting to, tell them that they've done a good job. And then shortly after that, luckily, we'll get to then interview them. So right off the back of the elimination, they'll be there, and we'll be there waiting to ask them all the juicy questions.
Oh, brilliant. Well, you can come back and tell us all about that, Sarah. Thank you very much. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
See you later. Have a nice sleep.
Bye. Thank you.